Measuring temperature. Dear students, today we will study about heat. In winter, you feel cold inside the house. If you come out in the sun, then you feel warm. In summer, you feel hot even inside the house. How do we know that whether the object is hot or cold? Here we will try to seek answers to some of these questions. We see that some objects are hot while some are cold. How do we decide that which object is hotter than the other? We often do this by touching the objects. But is our sense of touch reliable or not? Let us find out. We cannot always rely on our senses, as senses also make some mistake. Then, how do we find out that how hot an object really is? A reliable measure of hotness of an object is its temperature. Temperature is measured by a device called thermometer. A clinical thermometer consists of a long, narrow, uniform glass tube. It has a bulb at one end. This bulb contains mercury. Outside the bulb, a small shining thread of mercury can be seen. The scale we use is Celsius scale, indicated by degree Celsius. The thermometer that measures our body temperature is called clinical thermometer. A clinical thermometer reads temperature from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. Thermometer must be washed before and after use, preferably with an antiseptic solution. Ensure that the mercury level in thermometer is below 35 degrees Celsius. Don't hold the thermometer by bulb while reading it. The normal temperature of human body is 37 degrees Celsius. The temperature of each person is not 37 degrees Celsius exactly. It slightly differs. The clinical thermometer is designed to measure only human body. Also, avoid keeping the thermometer in the sun or near a flame. It may break. The clinical thermometer is designed to measure the temperature of human body only. The temperature of human body normally does not go below 35 degrees Celsius or above 42 degrees Celsius. India has adopted the Celsius scale, and we should read that scale. The other scale with the range 94 to 108 degrees in Fahrenheit scale. It was in use earlier. Temperature is a measure, the sensation of warmth or coldness of an object felt from contact with it. This sensation of touch gives an approximate or relative measure of the temperature. Temperature is measured in different scales, including Fahrenheit F and Celsius or centigrade C. The units of Fahrenheit and Celsius scales are called degrees and are denoted by. Swedish astronomer Anders Celsius devised the Celsius scale in 1742. He fixed the scale at the freezing of water and at the boiling of water. A thermometer is used to measure the temperature of an object. It is used to find how cold or hot the object is. Galileo invented a rudimentary water thermometer in 1593. He called this device a thermoscope. However, this form was ineffective as water freezes at low temperatures. In 1714, Gabriel Fahrenheit invented the mercury thermometer, the modern thermometer. The long, narrow, uniform glass tube is called the stem of a thermometer. The small tube called the bulb, which contains mercury. Mercury is toxic and it is very difficult to dispose it when the thermometer breaks. So, nowadays, digital thermometers are used to measure the temperature as they do not contain mercury. Types of thermometer. There are different types of thermometers that measure the temperatures of different things like air, our bodies, food, and many other things. There are clinical thermometers, laboratory thermometers, Galileo thermometers, and digital remote thermometers. Among these, the commonly used thermometers are clinical thermometers and laboratory thermometers. These thermometers are used to measure the temperature of the human body at home, clinics, and hospitals. All clinical thermometers have a kink that prevents the mercury from falling down rapidly so that the temperature can be noted conveniently. There are temperature scales on either side of the mercury thread, one in Celsius scale and the other in Fahrenheit scale. A clinical thermometer indicates temperatures from 0, note a reading, Place the thermometer in the person's mouth. Since the Fahrenheit scale is more sensitive than the Celsius scale, body temperature is measured in degrees Fahrenheit only. They are also used in the industry as they can measure temperatures higher than what clinical thermometers can record. The stem and the bulb are longer when compared to that of a clinical thermometer. A laboratory thermometer has only the Celsius scale, ranging from -10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. Clinical thermometer. The thermometer that measures our body temperature is called clinical thermometer. A clinical thermometer consists of a long, narrow, uniform glass tube. It has a bulb at one end. This bulb contains mercury. Outside the bulb, a small shining thread of mercury can be seen. The scale we use is Celsius scale, indicated by degree C. A clinical thermometer reads temperature from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. Thermometer must be washed before and after use, preferably with an antiseptic solution. Ensure that the mercury level in thermometer is below 35 degrees Celsius. Don't hold the thermometer by bulb while reading it. The normal temperature of human body is 37 degrees Celsius. The temperature of every person is not 37 degrees Celsius exactly. It slightly differs. The clinical thermometer is designed to measure only human body. Also, avoid keeping the thermometer in the sun or near a flame. It may break. The clinical thermometer is designed to measure the temperature of human body only. The temperature of human body normally does not go below 35 degrees Celsius or above 42 degrees Celsius. India has adopted the Celsius scale, and we should read that scale. The other scale with the range 94 to 108 degrees in Fahrenheit scale. It was in use earlier. Laboratory thermometer. Dear students, here we shall study about laboratory thermometer. What exactly a laboratory thermometer is and where it is used and why. To measure the temperature of objects, we use laboratory thermometer. Its temperature limit is much higher than clinical thermometer. Precautions needed while reading laboratory thermometer are: should be kept upright and not tilted. Bulb should be surrounded from all sides with the substance of which the temperature is to be measured. The bulb should not touch the surface of the container. It is not convenient to use laboratory thermometer to measure body temperature. Have you wondered that by the mercury do not after removing the thermometer from the object fall? It is because of the kink. It prevents mercury level from falling on its own. Laboratory thermometer are used in industries and chemical labs to measure the temperature of objects so that its character can be defined. Laboratory thermometer has helped scientists to measure the temperature of various organic and inorganic components and elements of periodic table. Transfer of heat. Hello students, here we shall study about how heat is being transferred. Does anyone among you have any idea about heat is being transferred? Heat is being transferred from hotter to colder body. Let's study this in detail. You might have observed that a frying pan becomes hot when kept on flame and slowly cools down when it is removed from the flame. It is because the heat is being transferred from hotter to colder body. From pan, the heat is being transferred to the surroundings. Heat is transferred by the process of conduction. The materials that allow heat to pass through them easily are called conductors of heat. Example: aluminium, iron, and copper. Materials that do not allow heat to pass through them are called insulators. They are bad conductor of heat. The water and air are poor conductor of heat, but still heat is radiated in the surroundings. The people living in the coastal areas experience special phenomenon. During the day, the land gets heated faster than the water. The air over the land becomes hot and rises up. The cooler air from the sea rushes in towards the land to take its place. The warm air from the land moves towards the sea to complete the cycle. The air from the sea is called sea breeze. The water cools down more slowly than the land. So, the cool air from the land moves towards the sea. This is called land breeze. All hot bodies radiate heat. When this heat falls on some object, a part of it is reflected, a part is observed, and a part may be transmitted. Conduction. Well, heat is transferred in several different ways. Conduction, convection, and radiation. Regardless of the method of transfer, only heat can be transferred because cold is the absence of heat. Conduction is the transfer of heat from one molecule to another through a substance. Not all substances conduct heat at the same speed. Metals and stone are considered good conductors since they can speedily transfer heat. But wood, paper, air, and cloth are poor heat conductors. The flow of heat by conduction occurs via collisions between atoms and molecules in the substance and the subsequent transfer of kinetic energy. Let us do an activity to understand this. Consider two substances at different temperatures separated by a barrier, which is subsequently removed as shown. When the barrier is removed, the fast, hot atoms collide with the slow, cold ones. In such collisions, the faster atoms lose some speed and the slower ones gain speed. Thus, the fast ones transfer some of their kinetic energy to the slow ones. This transfer of kinetic energy from the hot to the cold side is called a flow of heat through conduction. Different materials transfer heat by conduction at different rates. This is measured by the material's thermal conductivity. Factors affecting the rate of heat transfer by conduction: temperature difference, length, cross-sectional area, material, convection. Convective heat transfer, often referred to simply as convection, is the transfer of heat from one place to another by the movement of fluids. Convection is the transfer of internal energy into or out of an object by the physical movement of a surrounding fluid that transfers the internal energy along with its mass. Although the heat is initially transferred between the object and the fluid by conduction, the bulk transfer of energy comes from the motion of the fluid. Convection can arise spontaneously or naturally through the creation of convection cells, or can be forced by propelling the fluid across the object or by the object through the fluid. Convection can also be dry, as occurs on a sunny day over the desert or in more humid regions early in the day before the convection has become strong enough to form clouds. The sun warms the ground, and convective air currents help to remove the excess heat from the surface, making the earth livable. Convection, both dry and moist, help to make the earth livable by removing excess heat from the surface, which is where most of the solar energy is absorbed by the earth, and transporting it high into the atmosphere. It has been calculated that without convection, the average surface air temperature on the earth would be about 125 degree Fahrenheit rather than the current 59 degree Fahrenheit. Radiation. When we come out in the sun, we feel warm. How does the heat from the sun reach us? It cannot reach us by conduction or convection, as there is no medium such as air in most part of the space between the earth and the sun. From the sun, the heat comes to us from other process called radiation. The transfer of heat by radiation does not require any medium. Our body too gives heat to the surroundings by radiation and vice versa. Radiation can be harmful if it comes from radioactive elements, as they could penetrate into our body and affect our internal organs. Uranium and plutonium are such elements.